Hello, World Wide Web. Welcome back to the Hangin with Web Show. I'm GW Pometro. Thanks for logging on and tuning in. If you haven't already, go on down and hit subscribe for us. Come back over and over again to check out some amazing artists, authors, filmmakers, creators of all kinds. We are here at Recon 2017 in Orlando, Florida. It's hosted by the Historical Miniature Gaming Society South. Thank you so much to Mark Raven for having us in here. And we're hanging with Howard Whitehouse, the writer and game designer of Astounding Tales and The Lion Eats Tonight.
That's right.
Wow. Okay. So, where to begin? I tell you what, the game you just did is...
The game we just did is a game called The Lion Eats Tonight, which is basically an African big game hunting game, except that the animals...
Very little tiny, though.
The animals have a very, very good chance of winning. That's quite important. That when the players go out with their big game hunter, who's frequently not a very good big game hunter. A lot of times it's the American millionaire or
it's sort of like just sort of the hobby guy that
or the fella who thinks that he's got some money now, so he should go to Africa and shoot things. And again, this is all like in 1900.
Well, sure.
And
they did that. That was a thing. They made their millions, and then they headed out to Africa and started shooting things.
Prove what a big man you are by killing things.
And killing things that have a tendency to eat you if you're not good at what you're doing.
In my game, we emphasize that part. So we have people attacked by lions. We had a herd of elephants that just decided, what the heck, it's time to go.
See, I have a general rule that if I'm anywhere and I'm not in a vehicle that will at least outrun anything that will eat me, I'm asleep, dreaming, and I need to wake up now.
I see.
Yeah, it's just a rule that I have. Mostly because I don't want to be eaten.
I am big on the whole not being eaten from.
Yeah.
Also squashed. I do not want to
squashed is not good, and big game hunters tended to go for elephants.
That's right.
These
creatures these noble creatures that are much smarter than they are.
And this much ivory, it's not really worth the pummeling that could come.
Well, and I like to deliver that pummeling. The game involves the pummeling.
All right, there's a lot of pummeling in this game. He just told you the goal of the game. They put these cards up sometimes like they're not listening back there.
Oh, that's absolutely fine.
The goal of the game is to get pummeled by critters that could pummel and then eat you like jelly.
Well, there's also the object, of course, is to try and get off the board with some kind of safety. We had one player who was attacked by a gorilla, as is so often. And the smart thing to do when it's your turn and the gorilla hasn't beaten you to death is to leave. No, he says, we're going to hit the gorilla some more, which is a really poor choice. But I think he knew it was a really poor choice when he made that decision, and it did not work in his favor.
No, it rarely does. You could win very few fights with gorillas.
That's my understanding. But again, this is more something I've learned from books than personal
experience.
It
is purely speculation at this point.
Absolutely.
But I know some big boxer guys that still wouldn't want that particular matchup.
No, I'm.
So okay, so. Great moments during this particular game. We know you had a good crowd, by the way. Great thing there.
Good folks.
What were some highlight moments from today's game?
Today's game, as I said, aside from the why don't we punch the gorilla, there's
a book in there.
There is.
Why not to punch a gorilla?
I actually see that as a New York Times bestseller. I need to work on that when I get home. We had one of the great hunters who shot an elephant between the eyes and then felt bad about it, which I was thinking is only a plastic elephant. I was happy that he felt sort of bad about it. There was a moment where two of the players had a falling out because one didn't like the other one's attitude, so he decided to stab him, which worked out really badly because he failed on the stabbing and got stabbed back. And then the stabber,
as so often does.
the stabber then pulled up a shotgun and shot everybody else. It was very Quentin Tarantino.
There was a little wow.
And as the kid playing was no more than 10 years old, I was either impressed or terrified. I'm not quite sure which.
10 years, you'll be more terrified.
Well, but my experience has been that when you play games with kids, that their luck with dice is astonishing.
It's not. There's something in the universe. It's not luck. I swear, the universe loves anybody under 12.
Yeah, that's right.
They roll the dice, and you never know how badly you're going to get beaten.
No.
Okay. How long have you been gaming?
Since the dawn of time.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. I started, well, as a kid in England in the 1960s, I had, the plastic soldiers like everybody else did. And when I was about 12, which was about 1970, so you can do the calculation of how ancient I am, a friend of mine came in with a book that he got from the library. But he said, you can play real games. You measure things and you roll dice. You don't just throw pencil erasers at them anymore. Well, I said. And so I started putting paint on these figures that were previously just basically army men. And it's an infectious thing. So I have been wargaming for, in not too long, I will claim half a century of this crazy hobby.
Half a century.
And I have written lots of games and some books. And
now you have another game that we have on our card over there, is Astounding Tales.
Astounding Tales.
What is the premise of this game?
Astounding Tales is it's a pulp movie game in which we assume that the whole thing is like a 90-minute, 2-hour B movie. And this one I did yesterday. You can play it sort of a 1960s fake James Bond game. You can do a lot of different things.
Okay.
But this was set in Africa because Africa is the theme here, where you know the book Heart of Darkness.
Yes.
This terrible tragic book of bad behavior in the Congo. Well, it's 1938, and they decided to make a Busby Berkeley musical of it. So the theme is that there's this crew where Groucho Marx has been hired as Mr. Kurtz. Terribly inappropriate.
Wow, this is
Hope and Crosby. It's a road to movie.
It's like it's all downhill from there.
It really is, and there's various real characters. Jean Harlow is there just on a contractual basis, and she's just furious about the whole thing.
Well, if you have to go to the Congo,
Ernest Hemingway is writing the script, but nobody listens to him, so he's just drinking and shooting at things.
It's like going to Key West.
And yes, and there is a Nazi film crew at the same time who are making Tarzan and the Master Race. That's their premise.
Wow.
But actually, they're there to mess up the Hollywood production.
Wow. Are there a lot of drugs involved before you dream, or is
you
it?
Think so, but no. But no.
That's quite a mashup you've got going there.
It's basically, I think of it as improv comedy with toy soldiers.
I love it, man. That's fantastic. We were actually watching as you were playing in there, and you're a very dynamic game host as well. I think it's easier for your players to get into character and to feel the game because you're constantly.
That's absolutely true, and it also helps to have a few characters who are kind of in that zone to begin with, who know what to do. Because a lot of people, there are a lot of people. They're ordinary folks. None of us want to look like idiots in public most of the time.
They point a camera at me when I do it. So.
But when you kind of get permission to do that, when somebody says, by the way, you need to sing a song, which somebody did yesterday, by the way.
That was during
the Astounding Tales.
During the Astounding
Tales. Because in the Road 2 movies,
always,
Dorothy
yes.
Lamotte has to sing, and Bing Crosby has to. So the guy playing Bing Crosby just crooned for us. It was brilliant. It was terrible, but it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
It's horrifying. But okay, we have moved to the segment of the show we call Clickbait.
I see.
On the internet, Clickbait are those astounding headlines that draw you away from Facebook.
Number 14 will amaze you.
There you go. That's right. Number 14 will amaze you. So we've put our own spin on it. I've sent the girls out to the World Wide Web and said, find me ludicrous questions that I can ask my guests, and their real-life answers will hopefully give me the headline that makes us all viral video sensations.
Why not?
I don't know why not, but it hasn't worked yet.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. Okay, the ultimate gaming snack. Those games can run for hours sometimes.
Well, let me tell you about an African game I ran on one occasion.
Okay.
Okay. The players had, depending on the situation, the hunters, the rich people, we actually had caviar for them. But if they got lost in the jungle, then they had to eat essentially things that they found. And I had come up with a tub of lost in the jungle food, which consisted of just canned white beans and, just sort of stuff it's cold, but it's edible, except that I had put a few plastic insects in there, which, and I said that you don't actually have to eat but you have to go in with a big spoon. And so this fellow comes up with the
face off.
Yes, he comes up.
Insect.
And he thinks it's okay. He thinks it's fine because he can't see the plastic cockroach on the back side. And the rest of us are looking at him. And we're going, go on, Phil. Go on, Phil. and he looks at us, and he looks at it, and he goes, can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay. All right. If you could do magic, what would you want to do?
If I could do magic, that's a tough one, and I hadn't really thought about it. It's almost like, what would your superpower be, isn't it?
Yes,
if my superpower, to summon my totem animal, that whole thing. And some people would want to be able to bring wolves or bears, but I believe that my totem animal is a guinea pig. So I think my ability to summon guinea pigs to my assistance would be completely useless, but I think it's the thing I could manage.
And it's an original magic superpower, because there's not a guinea pig man yet.
No. Guinea pig man.
See?
Would you buy that? See the movie? With Robert Downey Jr. That's Guinea Pig Man. I think it's really probably a Danny DeVito movie, actually.
It could be. Danny, job opportunity. Okay, you can invite 3 famous people to dinner. Who will they be?
Who will they, living or dead?
Just anyone.
Anyone.
Yes.
Because, there is that thing that if you invite Attila to...
Although we'll caveat, if they're dead already, we do have to bring them back.
Well, of course we do.
Corpses at the dinner table
Of course we do. Is that, who would I like... It's not only who would I like to meet, but who would be great together.
Yes.
And is it at my house? Because that also matters, because, I am fond of the place and don't want to see it go up in flames.
We'll tell you what, we will hire we'll get the special insurance for you. So
okay, I teach writing classes, and one of the exercises I do is that I get people to write down a famous man, a famous woman, a setting, and we'll put them together on a date, and we use those as writing prompts. So that, for instance, obviously, Jennifer Aniston, George Clooney. We think we kind of put those, but put somebody interesting in, Yeah. So I remember writing a piece where Attila the Hun, the famous dead conqueror of the world, he's on a date with Martha Stewart, and he was terrified of her.
I would say, table manners alone.
Absolutely.
She's going after him.
Well, I think she would just tell him that he wasn't performing, up to the highest level.
A Hun, after all. Come on.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Elevate yourself, right?
Well, I think that she would actually have him conquering the whole of Europe and possibly to America.
It's possible. And redecorating it, which
redecorating it perfectly.
Yes. Not no willy-nilly stuff. No.
Stylish.
Where are you going to be next, man?
I think my next convention is going to be NJCon, which is called Fire in the East in New Jersey, which is in June.
Fire in the East in New Jersey. There's a book in there somewhere, too. Yeah.
Well, and I will say, just because I'm here being filmed, I actually have a book coming out next month. It's the paperback edition of a novel for 11-year-olds called Zombie Elementary, and it's coming out from Penguin Random House next month.
Fantastic. Now we do know you're an author. Tell us a little bit about how long have you been writing?
Since I was a kid, as these always do.
Yes.
Since we had chalk.
Chiseled it in the cave wall.
That's right. I wrote some historical nonfiction back in the 80s and 90s, some war game stuff. So, But
Now zombies for kids.
yeah, well,
There's a
about
leap in
15
there.
years ago, a friend of mine who's a children's librarian said, you should write a book for kids. And I obviously, I'm very compliant, so obviously I did. So I wrote a series of essentially Victorian fantasy books for 10, 12, 13-year-olds called the Mad Misadventures series, which did well. We were translated into German, Serbo-Croat, and Australian. You can laugh there. And did a book called Bugbrush the Barbarian, and then most recently Zombie Elementary.
Zombie Elementary.
Which involves, it's about a kid called Larry. He's 10 years old, goes to school, plays Little League, and he knows he's not the smartest cookie. So it surprises him that he's the one that spots that his school is increasingly overrun with zombies, and none of the adults take any notice.
Wow.
So he has to take them on.
Wow. You know, I know teachers who would go out of their way not to notice
That's right.
that there were zombies coming down the hall. That's my shut up card. So I will do just that, I suppose. But before I do, I'm going to say thank you to our very special friends at Something Unique Magazine, the Florida Book News, Wordfire Press, Space Coast Comics, Famous Faces and Funnies. These are the great folks who share our videos on the World Wide Web, help us get the word out about some fantastic creators, authors, filmmakers, artists, game players, game designers, you name it. We're so grateful for them. I'm GW Pomacher. We've been hanging with Howard Whitehouse, the writer, game designer of Astounding Tales and The Lion Eats Tonight, and Zombie Elementary.
Zombie Elementary.
Coming soon.
The real story.
This is what your kids go through at school. Or they're going to, because you're like 12, so someday. This is what you go through at school. So, all right. Remember, folks, subscribe if you haven't already. Log on, tune in, see who we're hanging with next. Thank you so much, Howard.
Thank
Really
you.
Appreciate it.